yesterday's over the board game that we played. It's an internal game, it's unrated. I don't know what my opponent's rating was, so I'm guessing they're going to be an unrated player because I can't find any information on them whatsoever, and I forgot to ask. So it's an internal league game, so we're all part of the same club, and we're playing as black here. They opened with this C4 thing. Always looks odd when I see that type of maneuver, but you have to tread carefully because you may be falling into set play type stuff. And based off of our recent open tournament, I know I keep going on about it, but lots of, well, not lots, key points that were taken out of that open tournament and playing against the higher rated players is, as I've mentioned before, don't sit back too much and try and blend in my usual type of more aggressive play in the game. And if something comes of it, then build on it. If not, then let's revert back to just keeping safe and just look at what the opponent's doing and block stuff off, but don't negate the fact that we can attack too. That was the key thing out of it all. So we push through with the pawn and develop the knight. Just waiting for the massive overextensions or any kind of tactical play. And we're looking to castle on the king's side, but I'm thinking I'm not going to rush it because they don't look like they're wanting to rush for castling. They bring the bishop through, and as you know, we like to do the bishop blocker and also stop the knight from jumping into these key squares here as well. So we pushed the c6 and it works quite nicely. This pawn just sitting here, it does stop a lot of activity from the opponent until they start obviously blasting through and trying to open the space up. Then the queen comes out. It's nice and early. I'm thinking it's not coming for the b pawn already, but maybe they're looking at doing something and attacking the king somehow. But I couldn't really see the picture fully, so I wasn't too sure whether that was kind of a waste of a move. So in my head, I'm thinking, right, I'm slightly up tempo, but I'm not going to rush anything. So we bring the knight because we see this glorious square here. You know, if they're asleep, then we can attack the queen. So it's making the knight look a little bit more active. But at the same time, always thinking, well, what are they going to be planning to do? I can't see anything here, and I can't see anything here at the minute. Are they looking to get the bishop around? But bishop's protecting this area. Ours, so we could just do this. So I relaxed a little bit and they pushed through with e4. At this point I'm thinking it doesn't look like there's a set play thing, but I think they're looking to manage the center. Almost feels like it's going to potentially go into that old favorite of mine, the stone wall. It looks like we're going to be blocking down the center. So I'm feeling half decently happy because that's what we trained ourselves on when we were first playing, when we were playing against our computer and mini computers, and then the bigger computer. And really that was just all stone wall type methodology. So we broke away from that because it got a little bit tired and it just ended up being pawn breaks here and there and taking advantage. It wasn't that exciting. But because we were drilled in that, we know the principles of stonewalling the game and hopefully trying to gain advantages in the game as well. So we bring the knight through, continuing the action, always looking to see, well, can the knight come back anywhere? And it does have a safe spot here. I mean, it can come back again if it needs to come here. So the queen does move. So in my head, I'm thinking, well, okay, it doesn't look like there's a set play thing. The queens have to go back. They're losing tempo in terms of moving the same piece twice type thing. So there must be a bit of a plus for us in this aspect. We'll bring the knight around now. So we're looking again to harass the queen a little bit more so that they're losing more time. I know we're moving the same piece twice, but at this moment, I'm not rushing castling because they're not rushing to castle, and I'm thinking if they're planning to go on the queen side, then obviously then we can formulate some sort of attack process going rather than castling king side and losing that momentum. So they bring the knight out, which I'm thinking it's protecting this area from the knight jumping here, which was that's a bit good. So they spotted that. It's also making space for them castling, but the knight is attacking this pawn here. So doing lots of calculations, just thinking, well, there's no point rushing there because don't really want the pawn coming here, because then the knight is just going to come here attacking the pawn. Then we're going to be pushing the pawn to support. That picture doesn't look that nice for me, because it's in a sense kind of doubled the pawns, and we're trying to get away from doubling the pawns as best possible. There's nothing wrong with doubling the pawns, yep, but it has to be done at the right time and the right stage in the game to gain any advantage. So we simply push the pawn supporting. I know it blocks our dark square bishop, but our dark square bishop doesn't need to do anything at this moment in time. We just need to look at what the opponent is doing, block off any attempts at them mobilizing. This pawn is doing a wonderful job, and in my head I'm thinking they're going to try and fashion some sort of way of getting rid of this pawn somehow. So that was what I was constantly thinking. And then I'm thinking maybe the knight can come back around again, put like a 2-on-1 here, but he does have protection on this side as well. So they push the pawn, but they don't push it far down, so I'm banking on them coming here. We were thinking of getting our queen here to then bring the knight here, but to me, if we had done that, it was like they were sitting waiting for us to do that, because the bishop just comes here. And where does the queen go? Can come here, but it's like not really doing, to me it's not really doing anything here. It can go here, but again it looks a bit trappy for me anyway. So we castled at this point because it didn't look like any activity was happening, and if they did go on the queen side, we've got enough pieces to start jumping up and start attacking the queen side. Got enough pieces around my king to give my king some company. So the fear element was not there. I was fairly comfortable with the position at this moment. So they do bring the bishop there, and we bring the knight up, just attacking the bishop. Knights hunt the bishops in our mantra. We are thinking, well, okay, if we get to take, and then obviously it messes the pawns up in front of their king, and it does double their pawns. So if we can strike first blood and get doubled pawns, we've been practicing this for quite a period of time, the doubling the pawn situation, because it is a weakness. I have to confirm in my head it is a weakness, because we liked to use the double pawns to get the rooks on the the open files that are created, and there's nothing wrong with that, done at the right time, at the right moment in the game. Playing against the opponent, if we can establish those weaknesses, and if they take advantage of that double pawns, then so be it. But it is a weakness, and especially as you're building towards the end game, it can be a weakness. But always remember, it can also be a strength for the opponent. So they do go and castle. At this point here, I got a little bit arty in myself. I was like thinking, oh well, because now he's castled, his rook's going to be, he's got the half open file and stuff. So can we get a little bit arty here and bring the bishop here? And I was thinking basically, well, okay, so if they take our bishop, then we can take their bishop because we're on their queen. But then I kind of saw that he could take our knight. Yep. If we take the queen, then he takes our queen. And it looks like he's got more pieces up. Because then if we went to take the rook, I suppose the knight's trapped. I didn't look at it that way. I looked at it like we're going to be a piece down. Let me just run through this for a brief moment. So, in my calculation, I said, well, they're going to take, and then we take, and then they take because they're on our queen, and then we take here. And that's when I just I really did stop my calculation at that point. I didn't really look in it. I saw that we were going to be getting the rook, but I'm thinking, somehow we're losing out here. I don't think we are, though, are we? Take the rook. The knight's got nowhere to go. Oh, if I'd have taken it a little bit further. But they didn't have to move like that. They could have done other types of maneuvers. And what's it suggesting for them? Knight c6. Knight takes c6. Also, it's basically resigning itself to actually getting taken. The rook takes. Okay, I could have worked with that. But they didn't have to do all of that though. So there. Oops, sorry, we took back because we wanted to play it safe. Take. And he has to do something with his knight though, doesn't he, really? So I think he would take. Yeah. Yeah, there's if they take, then they're going to be... No, it's still even. So if they took with the pawn and we took there... Yeah, so it's still even. He even Stevens. She's got two... Yeah, so he didn't have to do it that way. So lots of confusing ifs, buts and maybes in that position. And my initial maneuver of this was to actually go with the knight taking and then taking the queen, etc. That's what I'd calculated. But then I got scared. I think I got a bit worried about, oh, well, he doesn't have to do any of that. And I looked at all the little tiny variations, one move calculations, and I thought, well, it's just safer just taking the knight because he's going to be taking. Yeah, so it was just safer taking the knight. It's better for them actually us taking here. But I felt more comfortable because at least I know what's actually happening. Yeah, we kind of guessed he was going to take and then we were going to just take back, keeping it as simple in my own brain. But I should have more confidence next time going forward in following up my calculation. I probably will still fall into the realms of, yeah, but they don't have to do that. You know, they don't have to do those moves in the calculation. So sometimes it's probably safer just going with the safer option if they don't have to. It's not forced. They're not forced to make any of those moves. And that's where you can come a cropper because you won't calculate everything that the opponent potentially is going to do, or else you'll be there for the time of the game. They bring the queen through now, defending the bishop. We just take the bishop off the board. We're in now simplified mode here because based on the position of the opponent's pieces playing as white, wasn't very attacking, which I was glad for. Allowed us to get into some spaces and capture some pieces. Now this option here, I was thinking, well, it's just going to simply take with the queen, and that's pretty straightforward. Nothing much left to do there. We were thinking of looking to challenge this pawn because we've got the bishop and the rook here. If they don't take, pushing forward, etc. So our focal point was really on that. Also looking to try and push up with the pawns as well. Because we know, well, in our heads we thought, well, they're going to try and challenge some funky tactical thing with these pawns in the centre. But miraculously, they actually took with the pawn and doubled the pawns. So in my head, we drew first blood in terms of establishing a weakness on the board. Can be a strength, as we discussed afterwards, as well, it can be a strength. And if maybe they focus more of their energy on this area, maybe that would have been more of a problem for us. So yes, we've got the double pawns, we're happy. But the game is a long way off yet, we've still got the queens on the board. So again, going for a little bit of art, attacking the bishop, x-raying through to the rook. And as we mentioned, thought they were going to start pushing through into the center. Our queen is currently protected by the rooks, so if there was any taking going on, then at least the queen is supported. We could bring the queen here, and if they did take and we take, then we'd be able to get the queen off the ball. But the problem with moving the queen here, when I'd done my calculation, was that the bishop can just take the bishop, and then the knight takes, the king moves down, is on our knight. Our knight will have to move back somewhere, so obviously back to where it came from. That allows this pawn to take, and then I wouldn't be able to take back because the queen doesn't have any protection on. Small detail that I thought potentially could happen. So I decided to take the bishop off the board, and they took with the queen. A bit shocked at that, but so now we're moving the queen up. The idea was to actually go and challenge the queen, and then I realized that's not really going to happen. And also this pawn is only protected by the knight, so I'm thinking, oh, can we come here and attack this baby? Or when we go, we get a check on the king, we come back down, we're attacking the pawn. But the opponent doesn't have to take the queen. They can always come back and support pieces, can't they? And support attacks, maybe. So the rooks come through now, supporting this attack down the center. Like we said, we'd always envisaged they're going to do that. It feels like not a small weakness. We've got pieces that are protecting the areas at the minute, but if he gets rid of this pawn, this knight is going to be flying into here, and it's not going to move from that spot. So we move the queen off of the line of that, because obviously if that did take, we wouldn't be able to take because the rook would be on our queen. And then we saw a3. I was wondering, well, what is this going on? I think they're just going to be probably trying to push the pawns down here. Could look like a draw, I was thinking. I'm happy either way. This pawn doesn't have any protection on. I was going for this, baiting the pawn, but not really, because it's like a fork. Takes, and then he gets the pawn undoubled. I was really trying not to get the pawn undoubled as we were coming into the back end of the mid game, because the queens are still on the board. Really wanted to see if I could keep those pawns doubled for the latter part of the game. So instead, just push the pawn here, helping to support this main pawn here. And if there is a capture, then opening up here, we'll be able to exchange the rooks. But none of that was happening. As we said, they're going to try and focus on pushing down towards our pawns here. I'm sure in my heart of hearts, I'm thinking we might be able to balance it out a little bit by pushing pawns ourselves. Do we hit this pawn? Do we just push this pawn here? So we push the pawn, and we're kind of baiting this pawn to come down and attack, really. And I'm thinking if they do that, if we do take, they take, we take, they take, the queen can take. That feels okay, and we've kept the double pawns going. So they pushed in the center. Again, another movement expected. And this point, I don't think there was any point pushing here. We could have pushed there, but I really wanted to feel the benefit of our rooks and owning the files better. But options, could have dropped, could have taken there, and we would have been owning this file here. So not much difference. Computer's showing it's a 0.5 thing, but you know, that's neither here nor there really. Okay, so they pushed and we brought the rook through, looking to x-ray through to their unprotected pawn. They do actually capture, and we capture. So we're still targeting the pawn, but now they've come in with the knight. It's got a nice outpost here, and it's attacking our queen. So in essence, we're looking to see if we can x-ray through to their pawn if the knight's moving. But I mentioned earlier, the knight just wanted to get into this spot, and it's never moving from this spot. Yeah, I knew that because I've seen so many games where they just jump in the center and then never move from that spot because they're managing loads of space around the center. So we moved the queen up with the idea of that, also the idea of this, but really they may take it and they may not, you know. They might move the queen just to come and protect the pawn here or something. Still felt drawish, so the rook came and protecting the pawn, which makes sense. I thought the queen was going to come across, but it didn't. So now we're just basically mounting the attack onto the pawn. The only other piece that can really defend it is the queen coming here defending, or going here to defend it, or going here to defend it. I didn't think they'd come here because we can take the pawn off the board, because the queen is not going to be wanting to take back and then take back because they lose the queen. But I've seen mistakes happen, so I was willing that they did go there. But no, they wanted to get rid of our knight because our knight is targeting this pawn, which is very clever. It's good stuff. Yeah, so we have to move the knight out of the way. We can no longer take this, because if the queen is coming here to protect this pawn has got no protection. Bring the knight back. Feels fairly safe there. So as you can see, the computer's showing pretty drawish at this moment in time. But we're still both playing on. And I think we were like the third game to finish in the night. And so the room was getting a little bit bare. So they brought the queen across and we brought our king across, because if you have a look, this knight has this beautiful spot here of getting a fork on both. So if we mistimed it by an iota and did something not, especially like moving the queen, because I had the idea of, oh, let's move the queen and then we can put a check on the king here. But if we did that, we're losing the rook. Little small details. The power of the knight being in the center, that's a good strike. It's a good move. We try to avoid it as best possible because we like the pawn being here to stop that, and that's why we like stopping that. King moves. So now we're looking to get activated with our knight. We're looking to see if the queen can actually go for an exchange, or does the knight jump in here again. Slightly different position. Is there any real benefits to it? Do they go for the exchange, or are they just not going to be interested? Because at this point in time, I'm looking, it looks fairly closed, but we have more pressure on this pawn here to try and establish something, as far as I can see anyway. And if the queen does take, then if the king comes and challenge, we can start doing a merry dance. Maybe to come here, maybe to come here to attack the knight. Again, wasn't too sure I was going to be taking because we're undoubling the pawns. So it does look like a draw in my head, but we have to play it out. Now he's looking to doubly protect the pawn, it looks like. Also supporting here and supporting here. So we decide to go for the queen exchange and see what happens. And they actually take. So we take. So at this point in time, even the computer's showing it's a draw. Yeah. So now we just push the pawn up, just supporting the knight, but in essence really looking to come back around here, like we said, potentially coming around here. I'm not sure if that was going to be the way to work it or not, but that was the idea of bringing that around, depending on what he does with these pawns. So he did push his pawn down, and at that point, oh sorry, yeah, that's it. So there, and then it's my turn. I offered the draw, and the opponent says yes, he'll accept the draw.